If you go to the 5th, 8th house, here's the kids and how much they cost. My performance and like, here's my skills, here's my talents, here's the commitments we need. Who's paying for the date? Who's paying for the meal? Who's sharing for these things? Do we put together? Well, usually you get a marriage, you have your kids, you have commitments made in. So you're paying for the kids, you're paying for what they need, and you're trying to get as much creative skills. You get them to soccer or hockey or dancing, or you have some creative skills that they're learning. And do you make sure everybody gets equally, or do the boys or the girls get more favor? What gets done? What performance is there? How the energies together are used? How creative can we be? We have trust. We have the kids. How creative can we be to deal with this? How do we deal with problems of trust, problems of kids? If there's an affair, do the kids know if you're split up? Like how the energies of togetherness I use to work with. We'll both adjust. Okay, we have to adjust our schedule. If one person's just working and is paying for things but expecting everyone else to take care of all the kids, that can be too big of an overload and can isolate a relationship so that nobody else comes into it. Nobody wants to come into that. It's always in the same mode, always one-sided. So the sharing, how much real trust and sharing is going on 8th house, has a great importance of how good that trust is. Or when the trust is gone in a relationship, boy, it's hard to perform or play. If your trust is gone, how do you have it? How can you be sexual? How can you perform? How can you play? It's going to affect it. But if the trust is gone, but you have the kids, how do you disrupt that? How do you break up the relationship because you've got the kids and you have to be alone and I can't carry it? What would I do? Or overlapped relationships, or kids that get sick, or not having kids, and what are we going to spend on? So performance kids is 5th house, responsibility of kids, payments, taxes, judgments, like business. This is all trust, inheritances. This is all 8th house. So if all the inheritance, if one person gets an inheritance, the other person doesn't, do they get to say how that money is spent, or do we both do? What's a joint bank account? What's not? What's a nuptial agreement? So like if I come into this, if we split up, I still have my money that's me. What's being shared? What's really concerned about performance, creativity, kids, to make interactions better. Problem solving. But you can see how the complications that can come between sharing and trusting and performing can interfere with one thing. So we got the kids, we got the commitment, we got that mortgage, we got all these things. How can I possibly decide to do anything? I can't possibly go to school for myself or do something for myself in the midst of this. We can't afford it. We can't afford it. And you got yourself in a relationship that's not allowing you to take any resources for your training. That's okay for a time. It happens. By the time you have kids, we make commitments we would never make. Someone's had a kid and brought them up. When they meet someone who hasn't had a kid, it's 2 different worlds, 2 different consciousnesses. It just happens that way. But this 5th house, 8th house of performance and trust is still there around relationships, around society. Your social conscience is in that 8th house. Your morality is 9th. Your social conscience and your integrity is there. The ability to raise joint resources, to work with each other, trust each other. And yet, can you direct it towards what we personally need for performance, for kids, for play? Are we making it in a way that we enjoy, or are we just burning out doing anything to make money and it's nothing that we like doing? This is this pressure 5th, 8th house, and it again throws off the balance. It's harder to maintain a spinning top if one side's way heavier than the other. It's going to spin once and crash down. Okay, let's just keep going. Look at the 6th to 7th house. Boy, being in a relationship, having just a relationship, the sharing, what we need, how I'm responding to other. One person's putting down the other person, one person's being put down. If it's an unbalanced or codependent relationship, that's a really complicated thing. It's going to affect, what am I doing? How henpecked are you? How husband-pecked are you? How wife-pecked are you? Like the partner can be affecting critically your ability, or it can be reinforcing you incredibly. But even if you're doing things because the partner, you're in the partnership, it's so good and it's giving you the energy and the support to do it, doesn't mean you've always done it yourself. So this creates an imbalance. 6th to 7th house, responding, and being able to improve and adjust, take in effects, take it personally, and be able to find a way to improve it and make it better. That's a special gift for a counselor, for advising, for interacting with people. And the people that usually have this strong gift, they usually don't have the strong identity. They have the ability to be humble with their ascendant so that they can respond to that. So then they're able to respond to other people more than the rising side, even though they're running into affecting each other. So a rising chart will go do everything. Say, I got all this, but they have all these ideas to project it, but they don't never know where it fits in. Some with a setting chart, some with this 6th, 7th house, they see all the things that we're doing. This is aligned, but why is this happening? Why is this going well? Why isn't this going well? How are we aligned? It's not about what we're projecting. It's how we're aligning. I'm saying so that can get very superficial. It can be very haunted. It can get very one-sided, but it could be really demanding of one person over another. You be dedicated. If we're dedicated to the relationship, we can make it work. We'll stay in our relationship. You know, some people, they've been in marriage 50 years and they got 50 years together, and that's a great innocence, a great accomplishment one way. Another way you could look at it, that's a really narrow way of living because you haven't run across other people, just stayed in your world. It would depend on how much integrity, how much depth you had. I mean, for the average person, having a good relationship, living deeply, having a church, having a place, you know, all that word, that's the privileged community. That's the standard. But how many people in the world can't fit that standard? Circumstances have come up, relationships have gone wrong, things gone wrong, and they're living in poor zones and poverty areas and war zones and famine areas. And boy, you get desperate in any of these areas, then these imbalances become far more extreme. If you're balanced in a relationship that much and someone dies, what do? I can't live without them. I don't want. Instantly, you see this. So, okay, I think, let's see. Yeah, so this is an example of all over towards the ascendant to the 12th house or to the descendant, the 6th house, 7th house, where you're way over there and you balance that way. You can, a gyroscope can maintain that balance, but it's not the standard. It's not the most upright standard. It's not the most standard that's there. It's going to be a bit more awkward or seemingly wobbly or precarious. So how are you spinning these days? How are you? How are you spinning? How's the world turning for you? 1 second. Yeah, so those were the upright spinning, the half tilted one, the one right over. So that top would have been long gone, but the gyroscope has spinning, so people can live in balance like this for a long time, but there's a cost. So I'm going to take a time, go over a few charts, look at a few charts around this, but not as specific. I took the bowls and the bundles, the charts that can all be on one side to see how they would array. My chart, it's a bowl chart. Everything's rising except for Venus in the 4th house. So I have everything on one side. So that is really my self-portrait. But this one little point, Venus in the 4th house, balances all the other rising things. So I do all this energy. I put all my energy out to go out into the world and put things together, get my ideas out to teach, to promote, to put things out. I do all of that, but it hinges on whether I'm appreciated or liked or I value what I'm doing. My Venus in the 4th house. I get in a relationship, I'm giving everything, I'm doing everything, it's all going, but if someone pulls away, boom, the plug gets pulled on the bathtub and I get disoriented from this. Then I have an emotional crisis around it, but mostly I'm projecting. I'm not a strong reactor, but I'm really sensitive to whether my actions are appreciated or not. So as a teenager, like singing, I could sing, but a minute I have to pay attention to other people's reactions. I never think I'm good enough. I really need encouragement. I need to fit in. It's a big deal. So, okay, I got a bunch of charts here, but I'm just gonna go through it. Like my puzzles are 2nd house. I have so many friends. I know so many people. I've lived in different places in the world. I put a lot of resources into friendships, into people, into teams, working with astrology groups, mystical groups. I've done that. But the wives I was with, they were into my world. I wasn't really into their world and their friendships and being part of their world. They were more into my world, which just became one-sided and ended up not working. So now I'm old. I see my grandkid, my granddaughter and other people, and I think, geez, my granddaughter met someone like me. I think, whoa, that's kind of extreme. I don't know if, I would be concerned. Not that it couldn't be meaningful or done, but it's just that everybody, that's normal for me. Then again, I haven't really married into really outstanding social situations where everything, the money was there and never had money. So that's, but whenever there was a group thing that needed to be done for group, money would always come in. Whenever needed for myself, it's another story. I learned to do without. Okay, just taking a bunch of charts. This is Abdul Baha'i, one of the founders of the Baha'i religion. He had almost everything below the horizon, subjective. He didn't fit in, he had a Saturn in the 12th house. So he had a whole new religion, the moon on the ascendant, the moon in the 6th house, Leo, the Neptune on the ascendant, the 1st house. So he had first 6th house parallels that running into his vision, his lifestyle. He was a prophet. But as he projected things out, his 12th house Saturn, he was a prophet in Islam for a new religion, like he was supposed to be the new prophet, and against Muslim, and he got persecuted in jail, people trying to kill him. He spent years in jail, yet his followers totally loved him, still do. It became a religion of trying to make a world religion, not just one that's just Muslim or just a world religion believing in God. But all this stuff below, he had a great depth. This one is Kathleen Battle, the opera singer. She has everything below the horizon. She has 3rd house expression, 4th house. Then she has the 5th house, strong 6th house, 1st house. Be able to respond to feelings and be able to project exceptional emotions to Venus below the horizon. It's not about where she fit in the world. She didn't fit in the world. So she was this isolated person until suddenly somebody discovered how good she was. But the social skills isn't her strength. Her personal depth is her strength. A.C. Bhaktivedanta, the founder of Hare Krishna, almost everything setting. At 70, no, was it 70? Yeah, at 70, he left India, went and took a boat to New York, got off the boat, sat down in a park, started chanting. 10 years, 10, 15 years, 10, lived about 12 more years. In those 12 years, more than 100 temples and a whole Hare Krishna movement established around the world in a way no one could make, because he knew how to align, how to use trust and how to get people to chant and play for a common cause. Incredible. It wasn't his individual energy. He knew how to align with people and attract people. John Blofeld, he was one of the books, he wrote books on Buddhism and wrote a book on the translation of the I Ching. And he was in charge of he worked for the United Nations, in charge for children in Asia and funds going to help children in Asia and education in Asia. But he has his funds almost all below the horizon, but he has a 7th house, 12th house accentuation, Neptune and Jupiter. So I don't know if he was married or not, but he did live a very dedicated life. And wrote mystical understandings, but it really was understood in a smaller area. It really didn't go out and become a big social function like with Bhaktivedanta. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, she had all her planets below the horizon, 6th house, 1st house, the ability to adjust and respond to others. And seeing that, and it's not lots of planets, Mercury, Mars, Pluto, smart, Venus, Sun, really powerful reactions, good and bad, and the moon in the 1st house. So her identity, her need to be her own identity, to express her feelings, moon Libra, to the sun in Pisces and the 6th house, the complicated things. It brought out the writing capacity in her, but it wasn't a social thing. It was her stories about how people respond to one another.